Hey, it's been a minute. So today I thought I would make a video about how my first food business failed. Fun! I feel like when I'm on social media, there's this tendency from people you're watching yourself to just post like the happiest content you've ever seen. It's all about like this amazing life that's being lived. And there's nothing wrong with posting positive, great content showing things about your life that are going well. That's awesome. Do that. But for whatever reason, I feel like when I'm watching content, I just kind of enjoy seeing people as they are. A lot of times, not just what's going right, but what's going wrong. There's actually some really exciting, fun stuff I'm going to be sharing soon after I probably upload this. But for whatever reason, I just feel like I can't share good stuff unless I'm like showing you some horrible things in the process. So I thought I would make a video about how my first food business failed without necessarily going all into the details of the mechanics of the food business, without really talking to you about a page-by-page turn of what went wrong, but more about the context of that in my life. In layman's terms, how much it sucked. And I think regardless, I'll probably bounce around because that's what I tend to do when the camera's in my face, and discuss other fun things about it as well. I'm in the middle of a park, Sharon Springs Park, by the way. I came here a lot when I was a kid, and there is a tennis game going on behind me. So if a random like tennis ball knocks me out mid-video, you know why. I started Tito's Burritos, a fusion concept. It's Mexican or Latin American in the sense where you have burritos, and Filipino in the sense where the filling is sisig in different adobo dishes, along with traditional burritos. That was fun. It's something I enjoyed doing, and when we first launched it in 2019, it went quite well. I was very thankful for the amount of people that just generally wanted to support me in that. We had two initial locations. One location was in BGC's Mercado Central, the other was inside Mandaluyong's Greenfield district. And although a lot of people just for some reason automatically assumed I was endorsing another brand, like this was a concept that I had helped put together. Everything from the design of the logo to the pricing of the menu to the business model, being able to determine what locations made the most sense. Like this was a venture that I was very much a part of, beginning to end, to which I put a significant amount of my own money into. So it was very much a baby of mine, and I was invested in it in every sense of that word. I think to summarize this story, I would say that it was probably not the best decision to start a small food business where the majority of your customers are students right before a global panini. Everyone got hit by 2020 and 2021 in very different ways. I know that not all of them are with us right now. And if you go through my social medias, you'll find that I really had so little to say about the global panini, largely because maybe I just didn't feel like my voice had to be the loudest in the room for the last 2+ years. Just to kind of also summarize and give like some context of time. In the Philippines, there was a limited amount of time in which foreigners were allowed to leave the country. And do not quote me, but I think it was around March 15th, and I had to make a decision right then and there, and I thought, yeah, I don't think this is going to go away anytime soon. So I booked a flight and left, I think, the day before that travel ban was put into effect. So anyways, I ended up going to the US for the first time, I want to say in a couple years, at least 2 to 3 years. And I had spent most of my 20s in the Philippines at this point. The better part of a decade, at least 8+ years living in the Philippines. To really move my life back to the US was, that was something I was just having to figure out in real time, like a lot of people. So I came back home, and I will say on a very positive note that I for the first time, I'd say since I was a teenager, actually was able to have a relationship with my parents again. Aww. You know, there was a point in time where we just didn't really know how bad things were gonna be. So for that reason, I didn't want them to be the one to do groceries, and whenever there was any reason to step out of the house, I was volunteering to do that for a few months. So I don't really want to get into too much about my relationship with my parents, but to acknowledge on a lighter note that there actually is a relationship that exists for the first time since my teenage years. I'm 32 now, by the way, so it's been a minute. So I'll back up a little bit and say that when it came to the failure, and I will say failure, there have been friends, well-meaning friends, that just like don't want me to ever, I don't know why, to say I failed at something out loud. I think it's a semantic discussion where they think is somehow immediately means that you see yourself as less, but I think there's a difference between being honest about things that have happened, learning from them so that you don't make similar mistakes down the road, you make better mistakes. There's a difference between that and then somehow thinking that any mistakes you made, that you are that mistake, that you internalize it to the point that you equate you and failure as one thing. And if anything, I think that's the thing we should avoid more than anything. Like that's the one thing that you should absolutely avoid. I think no matter where you are in life, no matter what you're trying to accomplish, whatever you're shooting for, like, it is good to sit down every now and then and have an honest discussion about what your strengths are, what you're good at, so that sometimes you go back to the drawing board in life and decide, well, now's the time to pivot and focus on this. Being able to be honest with yourself about those strengths and those weaknesses, like, that's a superpower in and of itself that not a lot of people can do. Y'all, I could do TED Talks. I think what I want to say, because we're sharing the good, bad, and the ugly, a lot of what was lost went into savings. It went, and when I say savings, given my age, I'm largely talking about savings that was going to go toward my first home. And it's painful to have seen how much money was lost that otherwise could have gone toward my first home. So I think we talked enough about Tito's Burritos, but yes, one of the biggest priorities I had when I first came back to the US was getting to buy my first house. And as earlier I talked about going back to the drawing board and how that can be a good thing to do at different points in your life. When I went back to my drawing board, 2020, when I thought about strengths and weaknesses, my context, the fact that I was coming back to the US after not having worked here in this country for the prior decade, real estate made a lot of sense. I knew that I work well with people, and it was something that I could actually see myself doing for the rest of my life. I loved the idea of it. So did it, got my license as fast as possible, and that kept me busy from 2020 up till now. I'm very lucky to be able to step into an entirely new industry and actually have had the success I had in those first 2 years. Like, when I look at it from a big picture perspective and I think about 100 different ways 2020 could have happened for me, I'm so happy that's what I chose. I'll also share some good news whispered here. No, I don't want to. I'm probably gonna make future videos where I say it more. This is the problem with like barely outlining your videos. There's like multiple things I want to share. There's, and I'm gonna confuse you because now I'm talking about like two different things. Screw it, I'm just gonna share it. So I bought my first house here, which, working in real estate, was the only way that I was able to make that happen. Like I mentioned earlier, I lost a significant sum of money when it came to my food business. That kind of made it so plans for buying my first home had to take a back seat at that time. But The fact that I was helping people buy their first home ended up being one of the ways in which I was able to buy my first home. So that is some fun good news I wasn't planning to share until I literally just did. Other than that, when I upload this, I will actually have more fun news to share with you guys. And the good news that I will be sharing has nothing to do with real estate, nothing to do with me buying my first home, nothing to do with former food businesses. The good news that I will soon be sharing has to do with the industry, a new project in the industry from which most of you guys know me. So that will be fun. So you're actually going to see me post a lot more stuff on Instagram this October, just because there's stuff to share. And also I think I just bought a Halloween costume, so I think I'm celebrating Halloween this year. Oh, and Pride! Something you guys don't know is in Atlanta, we celebrate our Pride in October, not in June like the rest of the world. So happy Pride! Happy Atlanta Pride. And I will be in the parade for Atlanta Pride. That is gonna happen for sure. So I'm looking forward to join the Atlanta Pride Parade. I hope if some of you guys join, that would be great. Oh, see, now just when I'm like turning off, the clouds cover the sun. There's been like sun in my face for the last 10 minutes. See, this is perfect. I love overcast weather when you're shooting videos. They just somehow work better. And that pretty much summarizes things up. See you guys.